We're back out of our break and go on to item 8A, customer appeal, Roc Estates, and like you said, it is a review and consider a request for service charge reduction. Andrew Bartle?
Yes, thank you. I've been working with the board of Roc Estates pretty much since I got here. They're trying to find a solution. When that project was developed, it was developed by a developer that decided that it was cheaper for him to put in 2 meters, 2 single meters to provide service to all 84, 80, whatever units, rather than putting in a line of PID standards and individually metering each piece. And they're very unique because it's not a normal mobile home park. Each occupant is its own tax parcel. They're on their own lot versus a normal mobile home park. So they have been collecting money to upgrade their water line, and I'll continue to work with them on their options there and figure out what's best for them. But in the interim in the meeting, I informed them that they could get a service charge reduction for those vacant homes. Well, I informed them incorrectly because I was referencing what is a residential care facility. We do that, but we don't do that on multi-unit dwellings. So I had to apologize to these folks, and we discussed it and decided to bring it to you as a board. Because essentially what's happening is you have people paying for somebody else's water bill, and they have no control over that. Because it's a vacant house, they don't have ownership of it, they can't sell it off, it just gets stuck in limbo, and they're paying for each one of these units a monthly service charge. So I felt it was appropriate to bring it to you as a board to consider what kind of relief they may have for that, and they're here to support that.
Is there a way we can cap off individual parcels? Will these be capped off so that there is no water usage going on? Or are we going to need, it doesn't sound like there's a meter to
there's no meter,
so
there's not even necessarily a line we could find.
See, the water that goes in the 2 service meters is all going to be captured and paid for.
Yes.
You're just talking about the service, the equivalent domestic unit, or what do you call it?
Equivalent dwelling unit.
Dwelling unit.
where we're adding numbers
For a flat service charge.
Yeah.
of like a multifamily. I don't seem to have a problem with reducing that.
I'll let Dustin follow up on this.
Yeah, I actually have a suggestion if the board's inclined to go ahead and go with the reduction. There is a way that you could accommodate their request while also potentially getting the district its funds. In the water code, there's a provision that allows you to put a lien against the property for unpaid water charges. You could do that, every month until these units are occupied again. And presumably, these properties, whether they go through probate or some kind of escrow, these liens will show up on title, and you'll be paid through the escrow process. Yeah.
Actually, I believe that we would be paid annually.
You could.
And then
Yeah,
the county
not anymore.
upon the
Does the
Yeah,
county?
Butte County would pay it.
They no longer forward the lien money. It stopped last year.
Yeah, so
No, it's different with water bills, I think.
I was just going to say, I don't know if there's a teeter plan in place, which is what it's called, not after our supervisor teeter, after another teeter.
Oh.
But John may be right, that the county may not put the outlay on an annual basis. They would put it on the property tax bill, but if the property tax bill remains unpaid, that's where I'm saying the county may not come up with the money.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they have it every year today.
Okay.
So they haven't stopped.
So I guess that's a possibility.
So either way, we could lien, whether it be paid through property taxes, whether it be paid through escrow, at some point in time, we would be able to.
What are we talking dollar-wise?
We're talking about,
I think maybe, what was that, 10 units or something?
No, I mean, how much per unit?
it is multi-family $19.15 per EDU. Sound right?
For each one of these lots.
For each one of those lots.
And
Per month.
there's how many that are empty now, 9 or 10?
I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vacant right now. Actually, some of them don't even have mobiles on them, they've taken them off.
There's two lots.
So about 200 per.
So it's $160 a month that the remaining people are kind of having to cough up and pay to keep things going. And to absolutely no benefit to them or their properties.
In addition to the 300,000 we put out on these fees since this went into effect, which would have replaced our water lines many times.
I can clarify what George said. It wasn't the builder that came up with that. In 1993 is about when meters were going in. And I have a letter that was from PID recommending that we only use the 2 meters because it was cheaper. At that time, it was only like $19 a meter. And rather than put all the meters in, they recommended the 2 meters. And then a year later, they came up with the service charge.
What year was that? What year was that?
93 is when they,
That was when they with the meters?
that was when the letter was written to,
But when did the meters go in?
that year, I guess.
No.
It had to be 93 or 94.
What did you do before?
I have no idea.
Oh,
I wasn't even here till 2000.
because I've been living right there by you for
Last they were on
37 years.
I didn't know we had non-metered accounts at all.
I didn't either.
Forever.
Do any of you folks have a problem with the suggestion that Dustin came up with on the fees being paid at a later date, either through escrow or through taxes?
I don't think we have a problem with that. You might find in I mean, the bubble is broke, let's face it, our places were up to 100,000 before the bubble hit. We are now sitting probably an average of $35,000 to $40,000 for property in there now. And we just probated made a sale on a probate and lost $11,000 in the association on the sale.
You, what, the association bought it or something?
No, we lost the money, we sold it.
That was
That's what they owed you?
they owed it.
Oh, they owed you?
Yeah, so there's a risk, anybody takes a risk when you go into this stuff.
Are any of these that deep in with you?
There's several of them are in
This is
that.
nodding heads back
And we're very fortunate to be able to put money aside. Like I told George, in the last several years, we have put, right now, I think we have $170,000, I think, toward our water project.
See, the lien would save you money now, but it might cost you money down the road if you have to probate for the bond.
But Howard was right, since 1993, since your service charge went in, we have paid in service charges alone right around $200,000 for the park. Our water bills are minimal compared to the service charge. And this, the request to waiver the service charge was not, it isn't going to hurt your water because the water bill is always going to be the same either way. But, yes.
Now, the question I have, the service charge is basically on the 2 meters, or is it prorated out of the?
No, it's on every
Per
line.
Per EDU, $19 and whatever it was
Per
per unit.
1950.
And then there is a service charge that's divided, I guess, somehow.
Well, we paid the bill.
The water is furnished in our fee, our assessment fee. So
There's not a meter charge for the large meter. It's a charge per EDU and then charge for use.
Yes, that's what I meant.
For use.
yeah, the
What do you mean by
meter
usage, that's not by capacity, that's not.
You know,
I know, per unit of water, it's at our lowest rate.
Exactly, okay.
Well, looking at this Dustin thing, on these 10 units or whatever it is, every month we would have a $19 lien on that property. And whenever, whoever knows, whatever any one of those individual properties would be sold, in the escrow, we would get the $19 per month.
I don't see how you can.
$234 a year. $234 a year.
If we make this decision tonight, are we setting some kind of precedent for other multifamily units? Do you want to
This
say?
is pretty unique because each piece of property is only like,
Yeah, so it doesn't, so it won't affect any apartment building on the church, is that right?
Do we have any?
Going in.
What is the most units we have on one piece of property?
I don't know, this is one of the bigger
I
ones.
was gonna say, probably, these guys are probably in the top.
I was just thinking, because, I mean, I have a fourplex.
This isn't one piece of property, George.
I have a
Yeah,
fourplex.
one group. Correct.
I think he was asking for one piece of property, what's the largest multi-unit dwelling we have?
Right.
20, 30, 40, is there an apartment complex that's got?
Yeah, I don't know.
They're single
I
family
bet that one
dwellings.
down on Skyway, that's got 24 units.
Yeah, that's-
Care community.
Our largest CDUs are actually residential care, so
Yeah.
those are our largest.
Getting back, you have 98 units,
84.
84.
84, whatever it is. They pay $19 a month. And then the two meters are the ones that take the usage fee, right, for the irrigation, whatever goes on the water.
They don't pay,
That, you pay it as,
the association
Page four.
But
pays for the water and the garbage, that's included in their fee.
but they don't have to pay the water fee. I mean, how do you get your money?
We got an assessment every
Okay,
year,
assessment.
but that pays for our sewage treatment plant that we have to maintain,
Yeah, okay.
everything else, and they're getting a bargain at that.
Obviously,
Yeah, we just raised it to $120 a month.
Does that water and sewage
And garbage.
and garbage, those three things?
And
They
maintenance.
Still sounds like water, man, right?
Yeah, we,
I told them, yeah, that's it, that's, like Carol says, we are unique because the state classifies us as a condominium, which is still a laudable deal. But that's, we don't even deal with the state mobile home people.
You think that's Dry Creek that runs through your property? Is that not it is? Larry, it's Dry Creek.
I thought this was Dry
This
Creek.
is right.
This is Dry Creek.
Dry Creek's over here.
Yeah.
I don't know what we.
Dry Creek
Dry
runs
Creek
through our
runs
property.
through Pence. Well, anyway,
yeah, we're right off.
The one that rides through yours is never dry.
no,
For the
no.
most part.
I mean, the name of it's called Dry Creek.
Here.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, let's not worry about that.
No, I know, but I mean, that's a,
Oh, he has a leaky pipe or water.
I don't know, it's always growing.
My question to the board would be, you must have vacant units that are on meters, so what do you do about them if they're?
They have options.
They have options of either sealing or removing
The meters.
or pay the fourth, or pay the whole thing, yeah. I have a fourplex, and I pay, when it's vacant, I pay for it. That's what I'm gonna say, if we set a precedent, I might be back in here asking for some relief when my units are vacant, I only have a fourplex.
But these are individually owned lots.
Yeah,
That's what makes this.
I know.
That's what I'm talking about, is each
You own one lot,
individual.
right?
Yeah, I know, yeah, but I pay extra because it's multiple.
I have one question for you. Just on the physics of getting this done, if we want to take our delinquent tax bill right now, it's one owner, one address, one APN number, how would we know which APN numbers to?
These each have an individual ATM number and an address.
Yeah, I got that, but we don't, we just have one billing address.
Yeah, it would have to be coming
But
from.
we-
Maybe tell us.
We think we have that, we have the property tax rules for every parcel in our district, so we can find that.
And we are going to have a problem with the fact that this is kind of like a part bill?
I can't promise you.
That's really, that needs a motion to go.
No, I follow your question though.
He's wondering if the
They
building.
get one bill and they short pay it. And we're gonna say, okay, well, these little short pays here, we're going to assign to this and this and this and this and this and this and this. Proper APN number. Well, do you have accounts with them? No. We have an account with the big APN number wherever these two meters are.
But we will have an account with them. When we put the lien on that account, we'll have it in our system, saying this is a vacant house,
And
this
that's
APN.
okay.
Yeah.
Not gonna break the accounting model.
But it'll take some time. My question is though, is if you guys are foreclosing on properties to collect your dues, is that correct?
We're trying,
Okay.
a lot of them probate, we've been probating some of them.
We put, two in probate, two are going, one's, I signed one for probate, and another one is, so we have that, the rest of them, like we have two vacant lots, you know,
Not long.
and, for sale. And we have, we sent George a letter with the property, the lots, the address that
It's right up here.
they're there, and if we would keep him updated, you sort of have to trust us.
So my question is, but they're foreclosing on properties that have, that fee is included in that.
I've introduced some paperwork here.
But then.
Park there, it's a beautiful park, last time I was through, it really is. But are most of these vacant because of people taxing, or just
So
in
they
the
have
tax?
to
Most
deduct
of
the
them,
fee
people
from
Yeah.
their dues.
So it's gone into the state or what?
Foreclose on that property,
Uh,
or they're definitely.
a lot of them,
It's a flat fee.
there's no
$125
will,
a month. I don't think they parse it out.
and that's basically most of it, and then when the families get involved, they don't want to
They're
be.
not obligated, so they can.
So they just walk.
So they just walk out, and there we are. And it takes a while to
That's
get
their
it
problem.
programmed. It's very
It
confusing
may talk to more the process that the property's worth.
sometimes.
Sometimes, that's just what you went through the other day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did, we lost a lot of money on that one.
Now, we have, on these units that we're talking about, they've been vacant from 3 years to 10 years.
I see that here.
And, so, you know,
You know, a mobile that hasn't had any habit, it's in 10 years, I mean,
it's not habitable.
no, it's most likely got black mold,
We
or,
have it happening.
you know, scratch.
This is a problem, because I read your building thing, and it says if it can be rented, if it's a garage, it can be used for that. We got places, I would put my dog in.
Yeah.
And we do not have rentals in our, we have one that was grandfathered in. There are no rentals allowed in our park based on our CCNR. So if they're vacant until they're sold.
Do you have a problem, Dustin, with the honor system?
No, I think it's gonna be self-regulating. You know, the district will be paid through probate, escrow, or whatever mechanism, then you take them off the system. And, you know, we notify them, they'll see on that bill, that EDU charge is now back on their bill. The honor system comes in when they have a vacancy, they're gonna wanna tell us, hey, this property is vacant,
So that they.
so take it off our bill.
Exactly.
So it's I see it as kind of self-regulating.
And we're gonna create a bill via that APN on it, the parcel number, so at that point, if it wasn't a vacant unit, then we would still get our money at the end of the year during property taxes.
Right.
So either way, it's, yeah, I don't think like you said. it's-
The only
So
way,
that means we're gonna decrease the main bill that goes out to them by these 8 EDUs.
That's exactly what we're
And we'll have 8 new little satellite sub-accounts, so to say, which will then be turned over for the tax collection.
And it may not even take court action, it could be them making the decision to write us a letter saying, these following parcels are not, they're not inhabited, and we are not going to pay the bill for them, seek remedy from that piece of land. They write us the letter, and then we just deal with it, and the board doesn't even have to take action.
but do we have to, But doesn't the board have to agree to do something like that first, though? Like tonight?
Yes.
Well, leave it that way, I guess.
Yeah. But
I guess the-
that way somebody down the road
You can
won't
take
say,
action to say you won't turn off their main meter for lack of payment on vacant parcels.
right.
It could be with a simple motion.
Theoretically, we turn off the whole meters, both meters.
But what
If
do
you
we
followed
do?
our rules and they
Yeah,
underpaid,
right.
yes.
But let's take,
So that's the kind of action you
just for
would
the
take.
sake of discussion, let's take lot number 30, the bottom one that's been vacant for 10 years. Let's say we're gonna be getting $236 a year build up or lead, right? And let's say that you most likely shutter. Say it's another 10 years, so we're looking at this one, whoever's on the board then. Is there any way that the county or the city or PID can say, it's been vacant for 10 years and you owe us $2,340, whatever it turns out to be, and condemn it, because it's most likely condemnable right now. Have you ever pursued that?
We have
No,
tried.
I mean,
If
in
we
other
could
words,
get the
have
town-
public health come in and condemn it.
If we can get the town to back us up, or somebody, we have tried the state, the town, nobody wants us because we're a condominium unit.
Yeah.
And it's sort of like trying to find
They're
out
really mobile
who
homes.
controls PID.
If they're not under mobile home law.
Exactly.
We're not a mobile, it's not, they don't consider it mobile home because we're a condominium unit.
Through my company, I've been working that park for years, and the town doesn't want to issue a permit on it.
That's right.
So I call the Department of Mobile Homes, basically it takes care of everything from taco wagons to, mobile homes. They don't want anything to do with it, and finally, because we've done some rehab projects in there through the city, and finally, Kate just signed off on it and said, I can't get anybody, you don't want to issue the permit. No one
I
else
used to do the housing program for this county. I was director of environmental health when I retired. I condemned more houses in this county than anybody ever did before I was here. But I had to toe the line. It took 3 and 4 years to get the permit. The first notice, though, I got them torn down. And when I quit, I think the whole thing stopped. And it's basically with the town, you can't get a code enforcement officer out because I don't even know he's working it.
No, you're only there a couple of days a week.
You know these buildings need to be taken out. We convinced one lady, I wrote her a letter in December, she finally agreed, and she tore the thing down under permit, everything like she's supposed to. There's no water going to the property, there's no water going.
That's the one the water's capped off, the two that are vacant, it's capped.
And we can give you the AP numbers if you want those, we can get those to you and request relief from the host, and the address and everything else is pertinent.
So what,
Well, what's the board's pleasure? What do we want to do? Let's move on with this. I think it's a decision.
I'm reluctant to give away funds, so I think we should go the route of putting the lien on the property.
Okay, can you bring up the original motion so I can see what it is?
I didn't give you a motion because I didn't
I
know
thought
what
there
this
was
was
a motion.
going to.
There's a motion
No, I did.
on page 81, but that's not adequate.
Oh, 290, George.
I was more efficient than I thought.
Well, I have to apologize. I left my iPad at home. I didn't have a chance to help me get it before I came here.
I'll give it a try, and then you guys just
There's
fix it.
one on page, iPad 81.
Yeah, that's up there.
We're up.
It's not close to the one, is it?
No. I move approval to allow EDU service charges for specified EDU APN numbers as provided by the Eaton Rock Management Group be removed from their bill and accounts opened individually for us to enable us to move our billing process to the tax rolls. Finish it up.
Tax liens.
I think. Understood? Yeah.
Second.
Okay. So, let's take a vote. Is there any more comment from the public? Okay.
Just think the money you're saving us will go into our pot so we can pay to get
That's
the water
exactly where
fixed.
we're looking at it. Lauren, you got a comment?
There's not a, they said they charge $140 a month for the water, garbage, and whatever it was. There's not a conflict then, you're gonna lower the cost of whatever that is that PID takes off then for them?
No.
That's their decision.
We don't pay 140, 120
So a year or a month?
a month.
A month. But you don't, these vacant ones,
But they're not
they don't
trying to
pay
pay
anyway,
so-
do they?
That's how they get into this when they go out of probate, they hit us for how many thousand on the last one?
11,000.
And you don't get it.
No.
The county got their taxes though, so you guys will get your money.
Right.
Didn't everybody answer your question, Warren?
Well, it looks like to me, if they lien it for their $120, and that's including the water, then when you go try to lien it too, the landowner could easily say, well, look, we already got liens from these folks and we've already paid it, or am I
We're
misunderstanding?
leaning for service,
They don't
they're,
get water bill.
They have an entire water system they have to operate and maintain,
yes, yeah.
not just feeding water one
Okay.
individual parcel. So that whole park benefits from the fact that they have an entire water system.
Yeah, so it doesn't affect us at all,
No.
because we're on the opposite side.
Your,
Taking out the EDU
your
service charge.
responsibility ends right at the meter.
Exactly. Okay, so did that answer your question, Warren?
Yeah, I just didn't want them to get in trouble for double billing somewhere. It looked like, sounded like it was gonna be,
The bill they're doing is separate.
You know, the Eden Roc Estate budget's $30,000 a year for water. So
Okay.
we're not gonna get in trouble anymore.
In your record, you must have a copy of that 1993 PID letter recommending.
I have it down in the office.
It would be interesting to see.
I take a copy of it.
It might be good for our archives.
Yeah, right.
20 years from now, whoever's on this board will be wondering what the hell's going on.
Okay, let's move forward, guys. Roll call vote, please, on this.
Director Fletcher?
Yes.
Director Hunt?
Yes.
Director Kellogg?
Yes.
Director Duncan?
Yes.
President Crowell?
Yes. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for being patient with us, for being with us till now. I hope that helps you
I'll get the
out.
letter to him, yeah. I've got records back to 1967 when it started. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for bearing with us.
Thank you
Did you want?
for us. And the poor people.
Good luck on your water project.
Right.
Let's do that.
We're starting on it, we'll contact. See you guys later.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, item 8B, customer appeal from Amalia, review and consider information with regards to capacity fees and meter installation estimates provided to John.
pretty good, pretty good.
I guess, Director Marlowe, you want to start?
I'm a director.
Yeah, not director.
It's a difficult thing, I just want to make sure you guys weren't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're a unique situation.
Yeah.
Sideways move.
I see that, it's fouled up, really.
It is.
Yeah,
Several
yeah,
years
We see
ago,
it.
yeah.
that the board adopted a policy, and my suggestion, that we do all service line installation unless it is a contracted project.
Such as like we did down in Wayland or something like that. The pipe-
Yes.
The pipe filling on Wayland.
Correct.
Okay.
And the reason we allow that is because they do the work prior to it being connected to our system. To touch our system, adjust the valves, tap it, anything requires a distribution licensed certified person. And so we felt at the time, and the board agreed, that we want to protect our water, we want to protect our water quality, so all of that work and that tapping, et cetera, should be done by our people under our direction. So, an estimate is provided to the customer. Keith O'Brien puts those together. Customer pays the deposit. If it costs less, they get a refund. You see them all the time in the check register. If it costs more, we ask for more. So that's why we set the rule. It is controlled by the state, so if you wanted to give any kind of relief, you would still have to have him pay for a certified PID person to monitor and inspect the work as it was being processed to make sure it's done correctly in a safe manner, protecting all of our customers. So that's where we sit today. You know, I didn't talk to Keith. I would imagine that if he wanted to reduce the cost, about the only thing that I would probably support is that he excavate the trench and plate it and be responsible for it until we come in and install the water line, service meter, etc. much like PG&E does, PG&E allows you to excavate the trench on a gas line and a power line, and to their standards, and then they come in and do the work. So if you want to give them some relief that way, I guess you could allow that for him and going forward, that a customer could excavate the trench prior to us coming to do the work. Because some of it is built in, and some of it's across the road, you know, in
No, it
his
isn't.
situation. I said some of them. I wasn't talking about your situation. Some of them are across the road, it takes a town permit, therefore that's probably not an option for some people, but some people that would work out. You know, when he goes out and estimate, we don't know if there's a Volkswagen sidewalk there, we don't know. So that's somewhat factored in.
Does it mean that they can go out and hire a contractor who has the certifications you were talking about to do the job instead of our crew doing it?
No, no,
We would require somebody from PID
we
state.
chose not to allow that because we want to control and protect our own water system. Yeah, they're certified, they're supposed to know what they're doing, but at the time when policy was adopted, it was we should do the work, it's our system, we have to protect all of our customers that drink that water, therefore we should control that process.
Well, aren't we really just talking about the connection? I mean, they can do the work from the connection at the main all the way, or
It's
From the other side of the meter,
their home.
exactly.
But it's all interconnected. We have a process that we deal with to make sure that it's flushed properly, that the pipe's clean when it goes in. So if they're doing that work, we don't know what happens through that whole process. And when we turn that valve on, it's connected to our system, we don't have control of what happens to all that piping.
So
There's a certain amount of backflow.
Yeah, it could be backflow, it could be
That-
contamination and backflows in the system and moves down the line.
If they did something wrong, it could cost the district thousands of dollars in fines, correct?
Oh, if you get a boil water order, you know, you're talking about lots of it. Or there's instances where backflow situations have occurred where a chemical gets backflowed into the main and it sucks into the PVC line and there's miles of pipe that has to be replaced because you can't flush that constituent out.
I had that happen in our pipeline in Cape and John Hankey, because of no proper backflow preventers. This is several years ago. We were off, in fact, we were watching a ball game. When we got home, I got a glass of water to take my pills with, and I said, gee, something that was fertilizer. I didn't know that I don't sample fertilizer over it all the time. And what happened, he has some people that didn't know what valves to turn off and on. Well, I called the PID number. This was years before John got on, you know. And they came down and they bought us a truckload of bottled water, and everybody else down there started flushing the lines out here. And so it keeps happening that way.
Okay, so I want to hear from John's perspective of this. We've heard this a few times, so now is your big moment. We've asked you to put this on the agenda.
Okay, there's, first of all, I'd like to correct the property is owned by a family-held LLC. It is Alamer Investments. I'd like to bifurcate this into two parts. The first part being the connection, the second part being the capacity fee. Just to try and keep it, we'll deal with the connection first. I've been around this kind of work for years. I don't plan on doing it myself. I have spoken to multiple contractors, two of which you have used previously. I have also confirmed prices with Groniger Supply based on the estimate that I received. It appears that you're working with about a 33% markup, maybe a little bit more on it. The second thing is the estimate, well, let me go back first. I have spoke to each one of the board members individually on this. Mr. Flesher did come out and take a look at it. The backflow preventer is actually the riser is already in for it. It is less than 3 feet from where the meter is going to be. any claims of backflow are ludicrous. There is no pavement cutting. The distance from your main, which is on my side of the street, I believe the main is approximately 10 years old, to where the meter will be placed, is less than 10 feet. To give the labor estimates, and there are no other utilities immediately adjacent to it. It's already been marked. The labor estimate is ludicrous. And I think a lot of the people on the board here have used contractors before. I've had workers. If you tell them you've got 12 hours of labor on this through 3 guys, they're going to use that time. It could be hand dug and completed in probably 2 hours with 2 guys. I'll put it back to Director Fletcher. What's your time frame estimate in seeing that? And I assume that the line is between 36 and 42 inches, which is your standard since it's a relatively new
It is
line.
approximately 10 feet from the road. There would be strictly on the shoulder of the road, and it's all sand. But you never know. I've dug up holes in paradise. There could be a Volkswagen type of rock or it stayed right underneath there. But I would kind of doubt it, but that's a chance that you take. And it's less than 10 feet. And he does have the pipes coming up. I've installed quite a number of backflow preventers. In fact, I helped John install his after he flooded our line. And it's ready to go in. And whoever does it, I would think that they would want, before they turn the line on, the meter, to have your backflow preventer in that piece of pipe.
Oh, it's going to be in. But I didn't want to put a $350 backflow preventer in and have it stolen before there was any water in the line.
So before we can, since we can't go back and change the policy right at this point.
Okay, let me bring up one other point on this. In looking at the district's improvement standards, 1013, contractors shall make all taps into the existing lines except as specified in the project plans. 1014, services shall not connect to transmission lines without the written approval of the district engineer. Maintenance and bonds, section 403, requires for a 2-year bond at 40% of the construction cost. Section 801 says the owner promptly and diligently cause the improvements described in the agreement to be constructed and installed to serve all of the parcels. And in the pipeline specification section, 10.01 General B, taps and ties on district mains may only be constructed under contract with PID. Taps and ties for projects constructed by contractors under contract to a developer by PID on a work order basis. So we got conflicts in the standards. I've went to contract.
Wait, I don't understand all those numbers. Do we have conflicts in our standards?
I'm not going to debate it. We have different standards for how the project's being done. Connecting a service to an existing main does not generally fall within those standards he's identifying off the top of my head. These are for development projects. They're going to have an agreement.
Like a chip.
Like
You
chip.
remember that project?
Let me,
Okay.
John, let me interject something here. This is the first time. One of the things that I guarantee the constituents of the Paradise Irrigation District, if they want to talk to me about any problem within the PID, I'm listening to them. And as I told John when he called me and asked if I'd like to want to take a look at it, I'm not going to tell him anything. The only thing I told him was this pipe was 10 foot from the marked line, and that's the only thing I told him on here. And I fully plan on doing that as an elected constituent. I don't know if John voted for me or not, but his neighbor did because he's one of my past students that I just found out today. But anyway, about 2 or 3, I don't know about you, Rick, but about 2 or 3 times a week I have 1 or 2 people that talk to me about the PID, and it's generally always positive. I had 4 today, and one of them was Dr. Anthony Rudick, and he found out I had an eye appointment. and he found out that I'd been up watching the fish down his yard, afraid of this. And he started talking about Greg Dobbs. You know, the hell, Dobbs doesn't need a boat. Rudick thinks he can walk around the lake on water. And he taught him as a 16-year-old how to fish, and he just loves the guy. He loves the PID and the lake up there. And then the other guy was a Dave Duncan, and he parks cars. I know, it's a good story though.
No, we don't have time for stories.
I just wanted to, what I'm trying to set, but is why I want to talk to him, okay?
Okay.
Be good. And Duncan was talking about all of the PID staff, how good they are, he parks cars at the fishing day. And then I went to John's place after that. And so, that's, I'm not running around looking at this, but if a constituent asks me to come and talk to him, I'll do it. I don't worry about the clock.
Well, you can do it, but don't make me listen to your stories about it.
Really?
Hey, Ken, I can remember you as president, you're just getting some of your own medicine.
I remember that when I first started at the DB2. But anyway, that's why I went to it. Not reminding anybody and anything like that. Good.
So John, I can assure you that we see checks for refunds pretty much on a monthly basis on any services where, I don't know if there was, I don't have my iPad. But not refunds of whatever, not on services, but on estimates of hookups. And especially we saw a lot of them a couple, 4 or 5 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, we saw a lot of them. So I don't think they're gonna stand there. I don't think we have a policy of, hey, there's 12 hours to burn, so let's go sit in the truck for an hour, and or let's just stay really slow.
Actually, the crews never see these estimates.
Yeah, that, like I said, I don't think there's a standing policy of, hey, let's burn the hours because we estimated the hours on there. That would be somebody more like a private entity more than a public entity. So I don't have any concerns there that that's going to be the case. If you dig the trench yourself, do we have to have a PID for that part? Nobody has to watch. You just have to dig it to our standards.
Yeah, you gotta dig it to the depth and width we need, and he's got his USA, and he's responsible for any damage, but that's.
Fully approaching permit.
Okay.
We
I would imagine a large part of that is the backhoe work. We were asking about the estimate.
Well, it's 132 of the equipment charge, and the guy running it for 4 hours.
Okay. So you think you're going to do it within 2 hours with 2 guys and 2 shovels? So
I'll take the mini excavator over there and stay 1.5 feet, 2 foot from it, and
so if he digs
can't
that,
excavate the last.
can we have Keith redo an estimate for him that shows he will dig the trench and we will do? I'm not willing to give up us the connection as far as.
Okay, that's a reasonable.
That's our policy.
So it'd be a two-man service truck for what, hour? Ballpark, I mean.
I don't know what that estimate's gonna be. George is gonna speculate on what that estimate's gonna be, but we would allow you to dig your own trench as long as it's to our specifications. And then what other portion could he do? Could he have his contractor up there? But we would have a guy on site to inspect or be watching. We made the comment we'd have to have a PID.
That would be if you let him do the plumbing. If you're gonna have us do the plumbing, and I would suggest, I tell Keith, he's gonna dig the trench, he can have sand there for us. We'll come out and tap it, run the line, we'll sand bed it, cover at least whatever he's comfortable with, and then he can backfill it the rest of the way once we know everything that we've constructed has been protected by sand.
That's reasonable.
You okay with that?
That's reasonable.
We'll have Keith, let's direct Keith to review that estimate, and so that way we don't have to provide John with all the information that he needs and to conform to our standards.
That's reasonable.
I agree with that completely.
That's, I can't ask for anything more.
Our people will actually, do they put a saddle on the pipe, or how do they do that?
Two
They
strips.
put a saddle and then run over to your line, set the meter, and then I wouldn't turn it on until he had his backflow ready.
Well, the backflow preventer will be in, you tell me, we'll figure out a day and the backflow preventer will be in and inspected the day before and certified.
Since we're gonna change this, we don't actually need a motion, do we?
No, it's not a change of policy, it's not a.
Exactly, so, and we're not giving up the complete thing, so if that change satisfies you.
I'm happy with that, and I'd like to address the capacity.
Because of the time we have tonight, if I can cut you off on the capacity fees, I know your feelings on the capacity fees, and I think probably most of the board members know your feelings on the capacity fees, but it sounds like we're going to discuss capacity fees. I'll let you say some parts on it, but as far as making any changes to that, doesn't sound like we're going to be doing that until after we approve the budget.
Yeah. So
Correct.
what do you want to know?
I'd save your guns for them.
No, let me explain something. I want to occupy, we're already under construction, and I want to occupy by July 1st. Okay, I'm under the gun on that. Can we agree that if I sign the finance agreement on it for the capacity fees, that anything will be backdated to?
If we make a change and decide to eliminate capacity fees, we
Okay, and there's just,
Are you willing to
Is
say
that
the
what you're
higher
saying?
amount if they raise it?
no, it's,
Careful,
I've been instructed to make a few points tonight and I'd like to make them
No, but
because
did you hear what he said?
I'm not agreeing to that.
Oh.
I'm not, okay, we do not need capacity fees in this town. The monies have been collected, never been needed or spent. It's currently at $1.6 million. I understand it's been earmarked for a project, but at this time, we're sitting at $1.6 million in the capacity fee account. It's questionable the nexus between the proposed project and the capacity fees for the individual development. PID is 94, the district is 94% or slightly less built out based on the number of parcels versus the number of water meters. PID is 90 to 92% built out based on maximum density per zoning versus the number of water meters. Water demand has decreased in the last 7 years, despite there being more districts in the meters in the district. No notable increase in population in the district in the last 10 years. The district has remained nearly the same size for the last close to 100 years. The district, any expansion of the district based on the scoping EIR that went out a few years ago has been met with stiff opposition. The parcel owners have already paid for the system of adequate size. How? A large percent of the property taxes prior to 1978, including bonds, the first 3/4 of the district's life, paid for building this system. Rehab of systems or replacement does not have the nexus to new capacity. The bonds are still paying for the major projects. It was said yesterday in the finance meeting that the capital assets are depreciated, therefore there's no value in them. Our capital assets are there. On your own website, it says that to reconstruct the reservoir would be $650 million. Grants are another way. Grants are another way it's been paid for.
Where do you get 650, John?
I think it's on your website on the history. To build it today, the reservoirs, it would be $650 million.
To build
Equivalent dollars of tax.
Oh, exactly.
Okay, that's what I was talking
For 100 years.
Okay.
Actually, that was a part of my presentation, just so everyone's clear. The district passed a bond in 1916 to build Magellan Dam that was worth more than the parcels in paradise were valued at. So if it was built when they calculated at that time, there was $650 million worth of taxable property.
Compared to what the property is now.
Yes.
That's just talking about inflation.
Okay. Grants are another way that the property owners have been taxed and used by the district to build. When you get a grant from the state or the feds, it's our tax dollars. It's just coming from a different pocket. This district has done very well in using the fire hydrant funds to combine them with grants to fix leaks, to increase sizes. The buy-in, or whatever we call it, shouldn't be based on, it's already been bought in. Required studies for the capacity fees have never been kept current. Okay, that's the points that I wanted to make.
So in your particular case though, let's get back to that. You would like us to
Have a clause in the agreement
have a
that
clause
says,
in the agreement.
in the event the cap fees are waived as a result of a change in policy, that we would like to take advantage of.
You know, he said, he doesn't want to go the other way. If the capacity fees increase, he doesn't want to go higher.
What does nexus mean in this context?
Direct relationship,
Yeah, every 5 years or so, I generally recommend that a nexus study is conducted focusing on cap fees. I understand they're around $4,500, which is actually cheap.
Some will charge it.
Well,
How many
South Feather has $15 million of hydro revenue. They don't charge cap fees, but this district is different. Most districts that don't have hydro charge much more than $4,500 for a 5/8 meter. It's, if you did an nexus study, I know you kind of suggested that the district ought to do one, but I would
You might
suspect,
not like where it goes.
yeah, an expert would come back and say that figure should be 8,000 or 10,000, because that's the true nexus.
Would you give us the definition of nexus? That's what Perry's asking for.
Nexus just means there's a relationship, cost of service. What does it cost to buy into the system, the capital facilities that are required to serve whatever size meter the customer wants?
The word kind of means relationship.
So we're gonna
Cost and service.
We're going to let them stay at the rate that we have estimated for this particular service. If we decide to raise rates, we would leave them there. But if we decide to eliminate capacity fees altogether, then he'd be entitled to a full.
I think that's what he's requesting.
That's what I'm asking for.
Okay.
I'll sign the contract, I'll sign the
Is
note.
there a problem with that?
No, I think the district ought to be prepared to do it for anybody else, though.
Until we do ours.
Yeah, we have to. We did it for him.
Well, but we wouldn't have to go back years on capacity.
No,
Do we have any outstanding agreements? We did one.
Not for capacity,
We don't have any.
not for capacity.
When's the last time we collected a capacity fee?
The
Fairly community.
Paradise Community Village.
What month, what year?
This year.
This year.
And that was a
I
big
was doing some looking up on that, it was about
$52,000.
$52,000
Okay, so
for this year.
are we going to include them in this?
My recollection is they actually requested that. Remember, we went back, when are we gonna charge them cap fees? And they kind of requested that it be deferred, and the board said no at that time.
No,
But you didn't have the financing at that point in time.
they wanted to pay them.
Yeah, they wanted to get them before anything happened to
Before we
them.
went up.
Before we did a study, we raised them.
I think that was it, yeah.
I did some work, the other districts, when I was in the OWID, when George was an engineer there. And we went to South Feather at the time, and I don't know if they had the power situation then or not, but we hooked a line up out of Palermo. And it was over $20,000 in capacity fees.
They had capacity fees, they just waived them once they started getting.
Yeah.
And the power-
It's within the last couple of years that policy changed.
Okay, yeah, because this was 8 years ago, whatever it was, or 7, it's before you came up here.
Used to fight people down there on capacity fees too.
Do I have a motion by somebody?
To what?
I'll make a motion to come
Okay,
here.
we're gonna,
Instruct
okay.
legal counsel to include language in the capacity fee financing agreement that would allow for him to not have to pay the next policy changes. You may want to put a time frame on that in the next year or something.
and reimbursement of any expenses he has paid to date.
When are you gonna do your study? Or when do you anticipate the board's gonna address?
July or August. Okay. So from 4/1/2013 to 3/30/2014.
I'll make the motion, whatever you want.
Okay. Do I have a second? Yeah, so, Director Kellogg, so motion is postponed. Even though we know that's not actually.
And my vote will be yes.
Is there a second?
I don't know what the motion is.
The motion is to include a clause in the capacity fee financing agreement that says, in the event the board changes its policy and either reduces or waives capacity fees from their current rates, that John would be able to take advantage of that.
For how long?
Anybody?
For a year term.
For a whole year? From 4/1/2013 to 3/30.
From this day forward, would we back up and let the people in Park Road?
No, 4/1/2013.
Okay,
Okay,
I'll second.
3/30/2014.
I'll second it.
There's 31 days. 31 days to 3/31/2014.
Okay, then moved and seconded.
Okay, we'll wait for our vote.
In other words, what we're saying, we're gonna make our mind up like.
Yeah, well, I'm not at all comfortable with the language. I mean,
We're just saying that if we make any change in the next year,
Yeah,
he's gonna be excluded.
yeah. Okay, but I don't, no, that's not.
But I'm doing it
I think
now.
there's too much wishy-washy stuff. If we make changes and just change the names of things, let's say we don't call it a capacity fee any longer, and we call it a service fee. Well, does that mean that the
It's still a capacity
capacity has gone by down to zero, and he's exempt from that?
No,
No,
I didn't ask for that.
I would recommend that you change the labels of.
Yeah, but you don't get a vote.
I mean, I know, so you're free to overrule me, but capacity fee is a legal term, it's defined in the government code. So
No,
you,
we're making new terms.
Okay.
If that's what we're considering,
no, you're considering a
No,
provision
no.
of financing agreement.
that's what the committee is.
Half of the committee is
Oh,
considering.
okay, I got you.
Okay, there's lots of things we can do.
Yeah,
But the
only half of the committee is.
I'm gonna allow you to show your disapproval with your vote. That's not fair?
Oh, yeah.
All in favor?
Of what?
All in favor, say aye.
Restate the motion.
Aye.
Okay, you want to hear the motion one more time?
We can't mistake this.
I know.
It has to be stated.
Yeah.
The motion was to instruct legal counsel to amend the capacity fee agreement, financing agreement, to include a provision that would allow John to obtain the benefit in the event the board either reduces or eliminates the capacity fees within the next year, starting with April 1st, 2015.
Isn't that any customer?
It's
Yeah,
anybody.
customer.
It doesn't
It
have
can
to
be anybody, okay, anybody.
Because you're.
It's not gonna be just John.
Treat all customers the same.
Yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
Three more.
Well, we don't have any other agreements, so you doesn't even have to relate to him, it could be any
Any agreement.
capacity fee financing agreement.
Within this year's term.
Correct.
Once the decision's made, though, if we make a decision in July or August, then that's the end of the road right there. Correct?
Oh, no, because you still have till 3:30 to make that decision.
Yeah, they're giving it all year.
I can write it that way if the board wants.
Once the decision's made. but-
That the term is the shorter of when the decision is made or 1 year.
But the way the motion is now, if we decide to raise the capacity fee, he's in on.
He's locked in.
He's locked in.
I've already signed my agreement.
We're gonna allow John to be grandfathered in on his,
Because I'm making my payments in the meantime.
Okay,
Okay, now,
I amend the motion,
see if you catch what I caught.
I amend the motion that whichever shorter, a year or when we make a decision to change
Okay.
the capacity.
I'll second the amendment and call for the question.
okay. Vote on the amendment. the amended motion, the amendment to the motion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
I think we are.
Vote on,
We haven't voted on the
vote
motion.
on the motion
As amended.
I
as
think that
amended.
we would be doing an injustice if we only allowed that for people who go into a financing arrangement. What are we gonna do next week or next month if somebody, or in June, if somebody shows up and says, okay, well, I'll just pay the cash for this capacity fee, and then we,
Did
4
we
weeks
specify
later.
financial?
We didn't
We
specify
didn't specify financial.
Yes, it did.
Oh, it did? Oh, I didn't catch that.
I know.
Oh, I thought you said just finance charges were the charges, whether they pay with cash,
So,
check,
I think
credit card,
We should
financing.
make it for all capacity fees, whether they're financed or paid in cash during this time frame of
Yeah,
wishy-washy.
that's true.
I'm ready for your motion. I'm ready for your amendment then.
Can you amend it?
Just gonna come
Can you amend the motion that's been amended?
Yeah, and amendments
Yeah,
to the amendments.
Call for the question.
Good deal.
I amend the motion to include capacity fees, even if they're paid in cash, not financed, from here to eternity,
All capacity fees.
from here to the expiration of this motion.
That's good. I'll second. All in favor of the amendment to the amended motion, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Passes 5-0.
Yeah, thanks.
All
Yeah.
all in favor of the amended motion,
Double amendment.
say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
I'm
No.
opposed.
We have one no. Passes 4-1.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, John, for bringing that to us. That was part of it. Okay,